I'm Jackie Sarinas. Thank you very much, Denise. I'm Jackie Sarinas, and I am the Director of Graduate Student Services for the West Coast. So in my role, I oversee co-op, grad programming, and also do advising for the Vancouver campus alongside Maya. And I, in my role, will for this event, share a quick overview of Northeastern. So Northeastern Vancouver just opened about a year ago. About a year and 2 months ago. So we're very, very new. And since then, we've had a great amount of growth and I would say success with our students and where they're placed. You'll find out when you talk to Tarek later today, because he's part of the panel, is at NexTech AI. We also have students at Clio, at Providence, United Way, and SAP Concur. So a lot of other fantastic, great places. And the alumni that we have today have been a part of the Northeastern network. So what I want to emphasize to all of you is that when you're part of Northeastern, not just Northeastern in Vancouver, where this event is taking place, but also when you're part of Northeastern, you're a part of a larger network of folks all over North America and really all over the world, because we're also expanding into London at the moment. And I presume that once we get back to normal, we'll probably be expanding in other places in the world as well. So it's really fun and it's really great to be a part of this large network. And as you'll see, our panelists come from everywhere. And we are also joined by the fantastic Summer Harris, who's our student ambassador for the Vancouver campus, that will be moderating this panel for us today. So I'm going to introduce Summer here, hand it off to Summer. But before I do that, I would like to ask everyone that is a participant here, if you can put in the chat just quickly where you're currently located. Where are you? For example, although I work with Vancouver, I'm in Seattle, Washington in the US, waiting to get back up into my Vancouver area so I can say hi to my folks. But I see here Boston, New York City, San Francisco, some BC folks, some Vancouver, BC, Burnaby, Silicon Valley, India. Whoa, this is like very fast. Hong Kong, Vancouver, Toronto. Oh, there's a couple Burnaby folks. Fantastic, wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for sharing that. And hopefully you all can see a few folks that are maybe from your hometown or maybe where you're currently located at now. But I am going to continue to watch. Oh, at Chile, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. So we are all over the world right now. Summer, I'm going to hand it off to you while I entertain myself with the chat. And also so we can introduce our fantastic panelists.
Amazing. Thanks so much. My name is Summer Harris, and I am a current student ambassador at the Vancouver campus, and I'm at the end of my first year. And yeah, I'm really excited to hear some great answers from our panelists today. So first, we'll have the four of you introduce yourselves. So if you would be able to share the program and your grad year, if applicable, and then describe your current role that you're in or your co-op role, and then feel free to share any other background or work experience that you want to mention as part of your journey. And if you would also be willing to share, if you're in Vancouver, your journey to Vancouver, what ended up bringing you there. And Monica, I believe you're in Seattle, so if you'd be able to share your journey to Seattle. And then finally, please feel free to also share a fun fact about yourself. And the fun fact is optional. But I guess we'll start with Ranjita. You're the first panelist to join the call, so we'll start with you if that's all right.
Sure, yeah, no problem at all. Hi, everybody. My name is Ranjita. I graduated from Northeastern University in Boston in 2015. I did my master's in computer science there. And while doing my master's, I did my internship, actually co-op, at Hewlett-Packard, and then went on to join full-time at Hewlett-Packard and moved a couple of places in Boston, like QuickBase, then Microsoft, and then came to Vancouver in 2018. And I joined Electronic Arts here in Vancouver, and I was working with them for around 2 years. And I very recently joined Zipcar, and I'm currently working as a senior software engineer here at Zipcar. It's a remote position because we don't have any office locations here in Vancouver. So all of my team is in Boston. So yeah, there's a time difference. A fun fact about me. I have a very cute, I don't know if it's a fun fact, but I just love that fact about me. I have a very cute 15-month-old son, And I mean, all the fun facts about me are like watching him doing all the fun stuff. So I don't know. I don't find myself doing anything funny when I look at him. It's all about him these days. So yeah, that's all about me. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And do we have a volunteer for the next panelist?
I can go next.
Great, thanks so much.
Yeah, my story is very similar to Ranjita. We are partners, of course. We moved to US in August of 2013 to do Masters in Computer Science from Northeastern University. I actually graduated late than Ranjita. I graduated in 2015 December. I did my first co-op with a company called Introlinks, which is in Waltham, Massachusetts. And my second internship was with Demandware / now Salesforce. So I did my internship with Demandware at that time, and I joined them full-time back in January of 2016. And I've been with Salesforce ever since. I haven't changed my team at all. So I used to work in Boston with the same team, and I still work for the same team. Yeah, I'm a senior member of technical staff at Salesforce currently, and that's pretty much it. And my fun fact is the same as Ranjita. We have a 15-month-old who keeps us busy all day, all night, even now. So that's pretty much it, guys.
Tarek, I see you're unmuted there, so feel free to share next.
Yeah, thank you, Summer. I'm here in Vancouver. I'm currently a student at Northeastern, and I'm doing an internship or co-op, and I'll be starting my second year in the fall. And my co-op is with NexTech AR, and I'm a machine learning engineer there. And it's a very small team. They're focused on AR, and me and my boss are the two who are working on adding artificial intelligence to the different applications that they have. My journey actually crosses Ranjita's because I came to Vancouver to work for EA. And
Coincidence.
Yeah, and I originally lived in San Francisco and was working for DreamWorks Animation there. And one of the senior members there is Canadian and wanted to move back to Canada. So they recruited me. And I thought it would be awesome to come to Canada. I grew up in Colorado, so I love to ski. And so I heard a lot about Vancouver from that respect. And then 12 years later, I'm still here. Now that it's all remote, it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, I kept thinking at some point I would move back to the Bay Area. My family lives there, but I stayed. So since I've been here, I've been working as a visual effects supervisor, CG Soup, lighting technical director at all the kind of studios in town. Since I was originally in film and came up to work on games, yeah, the industry grew here and I stayed. So returning to school to learn about machine learning and artificial intelligence, and trying to bring some of that back into the industry, because what we do just seems to get harder and harder in making film or any entertainment. So I think the tools could catch up, and there seems to be a lot of potential with AI. Fun fact about me, I also love to dive, and I got my certification in Vancouver. So the water is super cold. And when I go other places, they just give me high props because they're like, oh, you got your certification in Canada. Did you dive into like an ice hole? It's not that cold here, but yeah. So everywhere I go, when I show my you have to show your diving card. Everyone just kind of gets impressed. So that's my fun fact.
Wonderful, thanks so much. And now we will shift to our fourth panelist, Monica, if you're willing to share the answers to the questions.
Hi, everyone. I'm actually located in Seattle, or I did the Align program in Seattle, which is a bridge to a master's in computer science at Northeastern University. and I actually just graduated this December, so December 2020. I did an internship at Facebook last summer, so it was completely remote. And then I got a return offer, and now I'm working full-time at Facebook. And then the team that I'm working on is business verification. So I'm working in integrity and ensuring that there are no bad actors on the Facebook platform creating ads. And I guess I can talk about Vancouver. I'm born and raised in Canada. I lived in Vancouver since I was 4, and I went to UBC. And then I moved to Seattle because my husband lives in Seattle, and it made sense for both of us. We both like tech, so yeah. Oh, and one fun fact, I'm actually working from Hawaii for the month.
Wow, I am jealous. I would love to be in Hawaii right now. Although it is also very beautiful, both in Seattle and Vancouver. I'll also just point out the background here is the view from our Vancouver campus. So I know we have people on the call from all over the world, so I just wanted to highlight the beautiful views that we have in Vancouver from our campus.
Another fun fact, my office is in the same building at Northeastern.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't know that. That's so cool. What floor are you on?
I think I am on 4th, 5th, and 7th.
Amazing. So you can see how the community really does stay connected and close together, and people stay in contact even after folks graduate and have been working in industry for several years. All right, let's dive into our next question here. How did your experience at Khoury College help you find your first position after graduation? Or how did it help you find your co-op? Was it the coursework, networking, or perhaps an internship that made the difference? And Monica, if it's all right, I'd love to start with you.
Yeah, of course. So I think the coursework really helped me. So for software engineering, one of the interview process is basically consists of answering a technical question in a crunched amount of time. And so one thing that really helped me was the algorithms class. It helped me go through the interview process and like have a deeper understanding of how to answer questions and the different algorithmic like structures and things like that. And then also I did an internship during the degree, and that actually helped me quite a bit because that was the part where I got a lot of the practical experience. And I think for that, like for getting the return offer, I think the coursework also helped me. The project-based courses were a good help in getting that practical experience of how to code. So yeah, I think the coursework was a big help.
Amazing. And as I can say from being in my first year, at the end of my first year, it's really amazing how much opportunity for learning how to code you get in the Align Bridge. So I can definitely second what you're saying. All right, do we have a volunteer from the panel to go next and share about how your experiences in the program helped you find work or your first job after graduation?
Yeah, I can speak because it's super fresh in my mind. I got my internship in January of this year. So after finishing my first semester or first year as a master's degree student. And definitely I had never done any machine learning or artificial intelligence prior to coming to Northeastern. And my internship is as a machine learning engineer. So it was a huge jump where I basically took 2 courses in the fall. And so doubled down, both took an artificial intelligence course and I took a machine learning course. And in both those courses, it's mostly project-based. So they would give you an open problem, usually one that's with a data set that is out there and other people have attempted to find a good model for. And so also you're kind of competing with other students to see if you get better accuracy, better F scores. So by the end of the semester, during the interview for my internship, they asked me what projects I had done, and I mentioned many of the ones they recognized as, I would say, standard machine learning models. They were pretty impressed that I was able to cover. I think they said, "Go ahead, keep talking," and I covered 7 different models and spoke about what I did to increase accuracy, reduce overfitting, etc. So I think that impressed them, even though the position required, I would say, experience in doing that, because they just wanted me to jump in and start right away. And luckily, I was able to do that. So.
Amazing. Thanks so much for sharing. Yeah, even in the first year, a lot of the courses so far for me have been really project-based, and I can totally see how getting that experience working on specific projects and getting to learning how to talk through them and articulate the important points can be a really crucial skill moving forward. So thanks for sharing that. Sahil or Ranjita, would either of you like to share?
I can go. I think in my experience, like the assignments and the project work helped me a lot. Like it helped me brush up my technology and get really fluent in certain languages which I choose to do the assignments in. And also like 2 of my subjects were actually project courses with professors. Like that really helped me understand the real use cases that we were trying to solve in the real world. And again, like internship and co-op definitely helps to give you that taste of the real world and how things work. So all in all, pretty much everything kind of helped.
Yeah, I'd like to add one thing. I think everybody mentioned pretty much similar experiences, but the first thing that we ended up doing was like having our resumes reviewed and made sure that our strong points were highlighted there, and that actually, you know, helped us stand out in a pool of other resumes where everybody was good, right? But then you had to stand out. So they really helped us brush up our resumes and make sure that, you know, it's formatted correctly. It can, it's going to work on your, like, it's going to favor you when somebody looks at your resume. So that was also very helpful, I think, along with our courses and everything else. So.
Ranjita, I'm so glad you brought that up because I was thinking about asking a follow-up question. Was there anything directly before the co-op that really helped you with that leg of the journey? And yeah, I think what you're sharing with this helping students brush up their resumes and actually identify where their strong skill sets already are and learn how to put that forward as well is a part of the program I haven't gone through yet, but I'm really looking forward to. All right, so that brings us to our next question. Reflecting on COVID-19 or other challenging times in our world, how have you fostered resiliency? Are there ways you can maximize resources to continue to thrive in your career journey? And maybe I'll see if we have a volunteer from our panel who'd like to answer this question first.
Hi, I'll help answer. So most of what you end up doing because of COVID is learn to communicate on a broader spectrum, because you don't have that day-to-day contact with your teacher or other students. And so you start, I wouldn't say compensating, but sort of complementing ways to communicate. One thing, for example, is we had to do videos for our presentations. So I basically got really good at learning how to record myself, edit, and for a lot of times, for example, the presentations for classes would have to be 5 minutes. So you'd find yourself rambling. And so you'd learn to practice so that you don't take longer than usual to describe, or be more succinct when you're describing things. So that skill, I think, would help in any case, whether it's COVID or not, being able to articulate in a in a given time, right? And there's a lot of pressure when you're recording because, yeah, you got your camera on and you don't want to make any mistakes. So for both my classes last term, we had to do recordings and also take-home tests, which are much harder, I think, than in-class tests. And most of that was based because of the teacher wasn't sure people would quote unquote be cheating. Like if you were sitting there in class, they could watch you, but if you're at home, you know, I'm not sure. So they just made it hard enough where given a week, that's how long these take-home class tests were. So I think it felt more like a real world problem when you had, you know, to sit down in a 1 week and solve a problem and then present it again to the teacher. Now that I'm in a co-op, I find that that's more similar to what I do day to day because I'm presenting to my boss and to my team lead. Whereas if it was in class, it probably been easier, but not as helpful, like as a skill to build that communication skill.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. And do I have a second volunteer? We'll just do this question on a volunteer basis.
I can go. So for me, both my internship and currently I've been remote and I've actually never worked in person. So that's pretty unique. I think like the biggest challenge was like, you know, you have to overly communicate, especially I just recently started. So I'm a junior engineer and I think this is a time where support is really important. Like in person, you could just like tap the person next to you and ask a really short question, but virtually it's like you have to set up a video call and do all of these steps to talk to somebody. But what I would encourage is to overly communicate, especially in the internship, because if you're just on your own, people won't know like what you're going through, what you're stuck on, or if you have a problem, like they will just not know. So like bringing up any problems you have in mind to your mentor or to anyone else on the team is really important. So yeah, I think that's a pretty big, that's really helpful to communicate.
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to add something to what she said about being like having over communications. I think that's so true these days. You need to be available all the times, and it's tough because being at home, there are no boundaries between your work and your like work-life balance to maintain that. And sometimes it's like it gets tough to be available all the time. Like we have these Zoom calls happening back to back and then doing your own work. So the lines are kind of blurred, but yeah, it is how it is, right? But you have to still be available all the time. And also to make sure, I think there's one thing that's very critical is, right, like be respectful of people working in different time zones, because at times you're working with teams across not only different states, but different countries and then different time zones. So making sure that you're respecting their time as well while, asking questions and, pointing out that you're blocked about something or things like that. And mostly I've seen with all my experience in past 4 or 5 or 6 years, everybody really enjoys questions. It's not that they'll get annoyed or wouldn't want to answer. I think everybody's pretty happy, and it's like a team. They'd like to answer questions and also work with you at the same time. So yeah, communication is very important. Not that it's not otherwise, but right now it's probably more important.
Wonderful. Sahil, do you have anything you'd like to add to this question?
Yeah, I think everybody pretty much covered all the points. I think like for me, like that was always the COVID scenario. When I moved from Boston, I was remote and my my team was very global. Like some people sit in Seattle, San Francisco, Florida, Boston. So it was very global for me always. But like with COVID, everybody's at home and it's like you have to follow up. Like sometimes it's just like you forget about it, but I think it's very important to follow up and like ask questions, but at the same time do your research. Like if you're asking questions every 2 minutes and there are 100 things happening because everybody's remote, it kind of gets crazy, but I always say that do your research, but don't wait too long. Like it's a fine balance between asking questions and just waiting too long. So I think we have to strike that balance, and it's tough for everybody, and I think everybody understands. So it's important to communicate even if it's something personal going on. And if you have something to say, hey, I have to go today. And I think everybody is quite understanding at this point because of COVID.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing. I love all these points that are being brought up, from the first point about learning new styles of communication to this point about learning how to err on the side of over communicating so that there is always that communication open, learning boundaries with the workplace, and then also actually learning how to ask the right questions and follow up, but then how to be doing your own work as well. I love these points. I'm going to steal all of these for my career as a student. All right, so the next question I wanted to look at was, what advice would you give to our incoming or current graduate students to proactively build the portfolio, credentials, and to set themselves apart?
I can go. Yeah, I think what I've noticed, like throughout all the interviews I've ever given, like it's all about basics. And I think that's what matters the most. Most of the major companies focus on data structures, algorithms. And I think that's the basics they want to know about. They don't want to see your proficiency in one, like syntax proficiency. They want to see how you can apply logic and basics, algorithms. And I think that's what I'm going to suggest, is focus on basics. Language is learnable, but like I think your basics needs to be strong.
That's such great advice. And after having just finished up an algorithm and systems course at the end of my first year, I can say that I think the first year really prepares students well to have that foundation to keep building on their knowledge of those basics. And I'm so glad to hear you say that, because really at this point, at my point I'm at in the program, I'm really just practicing the basics over and over and over again. So I'm glad to hear.
Even if I go give an interview today, all they care about is basics. Nobody's going to focus on a particular technology. They all care about, even now, like I'm a senior member. If I go for a senior engineer interview, I'm sure they'll ask me algorithms. So
awesome. Thanks for sharing. Do we have another volunteer to maybe share another perspective about what students can do to be proactive, to build their portfolio and their credentials, and set themselves apart?
One follow-up from what Sahil said is also how fast you can solve a problem. I was in a few interviews and early on where I kind of understood the answer to the question, and some of it was like preset, like they give you a problem, you sit down for 20 minutes and then you explain what you did. And in most cases in the beginning, I just didn't have enough time, even though I understood the answer. So they do also want, not only do they want to know that you know the basics, but you can apply them very quickly. And in the case of the coding, you get to choose the language, the experience I had. So you could choose Python or Java or whatever language, but they're going to look at your understanding of the limitations in that language. So for example, if it's a garbage collected language, they'll ask you about that. Wouldn't this be affect your solution? And if it's a Python one, what libraries, how they affect the complexity, for example. So if you under the hood know that, for example, a certain library is written in C, and it's being accessed through a Python script, that all the limitations of Python don't apply. So I had that actually asked because there was a vision problem, and the library that they were asking was written in C. So luckily I knew that. But if I didn't, I might have gone into a side trying to explain the weaknesses of Python, and then it wouldn't have been applied. So Sahil is right that there is this, everything they asked me was very data structure oriented and complexity. Yeah, they asked a lot of questions about both time and space complexity of my solutions and whether I could do better. And in some cases, it was a trick question that you couldn't do better, but they wanted to know that you knew that. And the funny thing is they always start, at least I had three direct interviews, technical interviews, and they all asked, the first question was all the same: which is faster sort? Like, would you use this sort? And why is this slower than this sort? That's how basic it was. Like, and once you went over that hurdle, they're like, okay, now if you didn't know that question, it probably would curtail the interview so it's short. And I could tell that was like a starting point. So all the points are valid. It's just that I think because they have so many applicants, that's the other thing I noticed. Maybe it's more now than usual because a lot of people postponed their co-ops during COVID. So by the time I came in for this spring, all the recruiters were telling me this is like 4 times the load for a spring co-op than usual. So the competition is out there.
I just want to add something as well to what Tarek was saying. This is about the interview process. So although knowing your algorithms is important, it's actually very important to know how to communicate. So like, it's not like from the interview, at least with Facebook, it wasn't about just getting straight away to the right solution, but they wanted to see how I think, to see like, am I somebody they would want to work with? So I think like it can feel not very natural to just keep explaining or to just say what's in your mind when you're going through a problem. So that's why practicing would be very important. So practice with each other going through a problem. It's actually a really big shift. Like I was doing a lot of questions on LeetCode for practical experience, which is very valuable, but it's such a shift when you're actually trying to explain the thought process. And I can say that like if I just went to the interview and I just quickly computed the output or the right answer, I wouldn't have gotten the internship. But like showing the process and how I think, how I come to conclusions, made it like a lot, like made the interview go a lot better. And then also, if you're stuck, it's not the end of the world. You can ask for hints just to kind of get the ball moving. And I think like interviews for internships are like a lot more lenient than for full-time jobs. Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing that. I love what you're saying about being able to communicate and learning how to actually communicate your thoughts out loud as you're working through a problem, and the importance of practice with that, as it might not be something that we naturally do when we're solving problems, but we do naturally do it when we're solving problems in a team. So I love that you highlight that point. Ranjita, do you have anything to add on to this question? What advice would you give to our incoming or current graduate students to set themselves apart?
I think everybody mostly covered everything. Talking out loud through the interview and sharing your thought process is a huge thumbs up. That's something really people are looking forward to. And also the other thing would be like when you're practicing at home, something to be proactive about is like, try to get out of your comfort zone, like not use your favorite IDE when you're trying to solve problems, but actually try solving, I'm sorry about the background noise, it's my son. But when you're trying to solve problems, like try to use whiteboards or just plain text pad, because you do not know what kind of a interface you'd be provided. Mostly these days, they're like language friendly, but I have given some interviews like at Microsoft and a couple of other places where I had to like design and architect or even solve algorithm related problems on plain basic whiteboards. So yeah, that's something to try at home when you're practicing for problems. That's it.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing. And I actually would like to loop back to one of the problems at the beginning where I asked you all to talk a little bit about your career journey into the field and the current work that you're doing. Just because we have a little bit of time left, I'm really curious about when you were studying computer science or when you started learning these skills, what did you imagine yourself doing? What did you expect you would do? And how did that, that expectation change over time?
I think my experience was like, I didn't have a certain field that I wanted to go code. Like I didn't want to do like specifically like machine learning or something. I just wanted to do like full stack is what I had in mind. But my first co-op, luckily I had a full stack development internship. But my next internship was mobile development, and it completely threw me off, but I really enjoyed it. And I just actually went with the flow, and then I joined full time and my project switched. Now I'm working as a full stack, and I like it. I actually went really with the flow. I didn't go like, okay, no, I have to do this, so I'm just gonna leave this and I'm gonna focus on this. I just went with the flow, and it kind of worked for me. Like, I didn't have like huge expectations. Hey, I have to work on this certain technology. I was pretty open as a software engineer, and that helped me at least.
I'll just add something to what Sahil said. So when I was studying computer science, I really found it very fascinating, like how software could be solving like real everyday problems, like in real people's lives, and then seeing their feedback and working on it, like looping back and forth with the feedback that you get. And I mean, people really enjoy working in a team, but that can be in any setup. But like working on a software team together and building up applications from scratch, that gives me a lot of sense of, how would I say, like accomplishment. And then when you hear people's feedback and like your software goes into real people's hands, like what I'm doing today at Zipcar, it makes difference to a lot of people every day. So a lot of support calls going down, your revenue going up. So all of these things, like they're like small things, but they add to the motivation for me to work every day. And that's, I think, what's kept me going from the day I've started at Hewlett Packard to now at Zipcar. That's what motivates me when I talk to real customers and hear them saying that, so this new feature you added has really, cut down my time on doing some specific thing, or, it's made my life easier. Now it's so much user friendly and I can use it on mobile experience or desktop. So those kind of feedbacks really keeps me going in my day-to-day experiences. So yeah, that's it.
Wonderful. Tarek and Monica, do either of you have anything you'd like to add to this question?
Yeah, I got my computer science degree, my undergrad, and I knew I wanted to go into computer graphics. Even my sophomore year, I started taking senior year level computer graphics courses. And I even took courses in the engineering department, like mechanical engineering department, because they had CAD oriented computer graphics courses. So I really knew that's what I wanted to do. When I graduated, it was a tough time in the entertainment business, because when I graduated, there was this wave of people in the beginning who really were computer scientists with PhDs who were working with renderers and sort of coming up with the technology to do 3D films, like animation and so forth, and visual effects. But by the time I graduated, they started needed more artists. And so I actually went and worked as a software engineer for almost 8 years. And at some point I had saved up enough money, and I had a mentor that worked at Pixar, and he said, well, you just should go back to art school to be an artist, because that's who we're hiring right now. So I did. And so I went to LA, I went to a visual effects school there for 2 years, got my degree, and then graduated and started as a junior, basically a lighting technical director at DreamWorks Animation. And what I was surprised about was that the whole system ran on Linux, or Unix at the time. and everything was computer-based. So all my background in computer science paid off because the job is sufficiently difficult enough that even a small script or a tool you could write your own, like in Python, would really increase your productivity. So I actually moved up very quickly because I had a computer graphics or computer science background, and used that as much as what I learned at the art school as a lighting artist. And every time I went someplace new after that, knowing computers or knowing how to program basically helped me a lot and made me much more efficient than, let's say, the person next to me. And then I was able to be given better shots, more difficult shots, which then highlighted my portfolio, which got me to kind of get better jobs. For example, at the end, when I was up here in Vancouver, I ended up working on Life of Pi, the movie, and they gave me the lead look development position, which was it's the most difficult position, just because they trusted that whatever technical problems would show up, somehow I'd solve the problem, right? And it did, like having that background. And so the irony is that I ran into so many of those problems that I could solve. I started running into problems I couldn't solve using computers. And that's why I'm back at school, is I saw in this 15 years that I've been out of school, things have gotten a lot better. When I went to school back then, we didn't have GitHub, for example. So a lot of things that you created and other people created weren't easily shared. And nowadays, almost everything, anyone out there is sharing with everyone else. And that includes machine learning, right? That's one of the reasons why AI in general, like the whole field, is moving so fast, because everybody's just sharing what they have, mostly through GitHub. So I'm actually very happy to be back in school now. The entertainment industry was kind of taking a hiatus, which just wasn't, by the way, it wasn't planned that way. Like I didn't say, oh, COVID, let's go back. I actually went back to school in January, 3 months before COVID hit. So it just was a coincidence. But now that I look back, I'm not losing too much taking time off from work. And so I'm really looking forward to taking all this stuff I'm learning now, going back into that industry, but with a whole new set of tools.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. It's so cool to hear how some of the skills that you were using and thought you needed have shifted over time, and how that intertwines with your interest in art as well. Monica, would you like to add to the answers for this question?
Sure. So actually, I did my undergraduate in COGS. I did an undergrad at UBC, and it was just an interdisciplinary degree. So it wasn't really like focused on one thing. And so as a result, when I graduated, I felt like there was no job that would like map directly to the degree I had. And I saw people going into research or getting some certificate to kind of add on the degree and get that practical experience. And so I thought user experience would be super cool. And the reason why I thought it would be cool is because I like to problem solve, and hence why I like computer science. But I also wanted to be creative because I liked art, I liked philosophy and things like that. However, after I did the boot camp, I found that I wasn't finding very many opportunities. A lot of places required previous experience. So it was kind of circular. It's like, to get experience, you need previous experience, but you don't have previous experience. So that was really difficult. And then another thing is that I actually didn't find the work completely appealed to me. I wanted to do more problem solving, more logic-based problem solving. I actually really enjoyed math and those kind of things. So I decided to do some college courses, like computer science college courses, just to see if I actually like computer science. And I really liked it. It was like something I was super interested in, so I wanted to go in full time. I found the Align program, which was perfect because I didn't want to do another 4-year bachelor degree. I already had a bachelor's degree, and so I didn't want to do another one and it take that long. So Align was pretty good because you don't actually need like a specific like degree in computer science. You just have to do the Align Bridge, which is like an additional 6 months, or I think it's 6 months or 9 months before entering the master's. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing. I'd love to chat more with you about the COGS program that you went through. Super interesting stuff. We actually have a question from the audience that I want to make sure we get to here for our people in Vancouver, or yeah, I guess for people in Vancouver or for people who know things about the industry in Vancouver, for our panelists. How is the Vancouver technology industry different from other technology hubs across North America in terms of computer science fields, companies, and opportunities?
Yeah, the entertainment business is really big here. There's a lot of big game companies, and it's all software. So they hire people that are, for example, there's a couple of companies up here that support, they write basically software platforms for people to create MMO games, like massively multiplayer games. So there's people who are writing the middleware. And then of course there's like EA and Blackbird and yeah, just large. Microsoft has a large presence here from a gaming side. And a lot of them spun off out of EA. So EA as a company was bought, the EA Canada, EA Sports was bought by EA. And so a lot of those guys left once the company, and they started their own companies and then so forth. So it's a very vibrant industry in Vancouver. Film industry, there's a lot of companies. Sony moved their headquarters up here, Sony ImageWorks, to Vancouver from Los Angeles. So they're a big employer here. A surprising thing is cryptocurrency. A lot of companies up here that are specialized in providing a service through cryptocurrency or just in general blockchain, like there's a blockchain. An interesting fact, which is, I was surprised to hear that a lot of the blockchain push in Vancouver was because of the legalization of cannabis. So because they wanted to be able to track all the legal steps that cannabis went through to get to the consumer. And so a lot of companies in town began to specialize in creating entire, let's say, a supply chain based on blockchain. So I was looking into working for one of those companies, and yeah, they didn't give me an offer, but that is unique, I think, for Canada and a lot of places that are considered tech, having that sort of entertainment side of it, and also things like blockchain.
I don't have a lot. I'm not in Vancouver for a long time. We moved here in June 2018, but we have seen the market grow in terms of software engineering. Like, I know there are so many Silicon Valley companies now moving their base to Vancouver as well. And honestly, like, a lot of remote opportunities have opened because now everybody's kind of remote. And like, I know that there have been a lot of remote activity happening, and they don't care what part of country and where you are, as long as you are in the pretty much the PST or the EST time zone. And like, that has increased a lot of odds I've seen in Vancouver. And I've seen a lot of movement in the technology. Like, I have my friends who have moved to different companies here, and I've seen a lot of big presence from Amazon also. And they hire a lot of people in Vancouver.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've seen it, but yeah, they're building a new Amazon headquarters right across the street from our new campus. and they're predicting 4,000 jobs will be.
Yeah, they're expanding, and I think I have seen like a lot of hiring in Salesforce as well, and I've seen like a lot of people getting hired in Slack, Tableau, and like a lot of other companies are also moving. Like I forgot the name of the company actually. Somebody just moved to that company from one of my friends, and
Chime?
that's Chime, exactly, Chime. Yeah, Chime also moved to Vancouver recently, and I think Apple also opened their development office in Vancouver. So a lot of shift I have seen from the Silicon Valleys to Vancouver now.
Wonderful. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing. It's great to hear about the industry opportunities in Vancouver. And Monica, I wanted to turn back to you briefly just to ask if you'd share a little bit about what you might be learning about industry opportunities in Seattle, the types of internships, opportunities, and networking that's available there from your perspective.
So Seattle's a really big tech hub, but there's a bunch of software companies. So you have like the big tech companies, Microsoft, Google has a huge office. Like a lot of the companies that are based in California have like a big office in Seattle. So Facebook, that's where I'm working in Seattle. But then you also have like other smaller companies that usually have some kind of software department because like the software is in almost everything. So I feel like there is quite a bit of opportunities here. It felt like the biggest thing was like being able to network and to like ask for referrals if you know anyone. But I think there's like a lot of open jobs, and actually I think the demand is higher than the supply for like good software engineers. So it's a good market here.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing. And I noticed that we're getting close to 6 o'clock here. So I want to take a moment to give a huge round of thanks to all of our amazing panelists. You've given us so much valuable information. I know I learned a lot from it, and I'm definitely going to apply a lot of this wisdom during my journey as a student. And I'm sure our audience members learned a lot as well. So thanks so much for sharing your time with us. And thanks as well to our staff who were able to make this event happen. And I think now I'll pass the speaking off to Jackie to bring this event to a close for us. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you, Summer. So our fantastic panelists, Ranjita, Sahil, Monica, and Tarek, thank you all so much. I want to be respectful of your time, so feel free to sign off, but we will also take some other questions about the campus and the programs that we have for any of the prospective students that are here that would like to know a little bit more about that as well. But I believe, Tarek, there was a question specifically for you in the chat if you wanted to get to it. And also Ranjita and Sahil and Monica, if you wanted to answer a few of the questions in the chat, feel free to. Otherwise, enjoy your evenings. Thank you so much. Enjoy your afternoon, Monica. I think it's like afternoon for you. But all right, have a great one. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and thank you, Summer, our fantastic moderator.
Thank you.
Always such a fantastic moderator.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just read the question.
Okay.
I can quickly, I don't know if they're still here though. Someone asked, what are some examples of things you learned from your ML class that you could see being applied to working in games? Yeah, I mean, ML or machine learning, there's a whole area in games called, they have AI, right? But it's a different type of AI than what you would get into like a machine learning class where you're learning more about setting up machine learning models, using regression, so forth. So the AI class, we have an artificial intelligence class, Foundations Artificial Intelligence. That one seems to me, when I took it, to be much more applicable to games because you're learning more algorithms than you would in the algorithms class. And what was considered AI through the 70s and 80s and 90s was literally just advanced algorithms. So I would recommend, even if you don't want to get into that machine learning or deep learning direction, taking the AI class, just that class, is like taking an advanced algorithms class. So you learn things like A-star, pathfinding, you learn to do better search, different types of search algorithms that are more advanced than what you'd learn in an algorithm. So I hope that answers your question. All those are very applicable, not only in games, but in other, anything that requires multidimensional data sets. Learning the basic AI, not what we would consider deep learning today, but just basic AI is very useful, and I'm glad I took that class.